Hi, everybody. Welcome to Our Sinclair. I'm John.
And I'm Aaron.
And today we're going to be talking about Chase H.Q. Aaron, when was the last time you were chased by the police?
Listen, in my line of work, you run towards the police because things behind you are going horribly wrong.
Have you ever been in a situation where you saw the lights light up behind you and you were like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But it turns out they're after somebody else.
Oh,
and
yeah, and you get
by.
that sinking feeling.
Mm-hmm.
The last time the lights came up behind me and they were coming to get me, I thought they did get me. They pulled me over. First thing I did is pull out the old cop ID.
Oh, yeah.
I thought maybe I can get a little sway. It worked. I didn't get a ticket.
You're one of the Brotherhood now.
No. I think they consider me pond scum level.
No.
You know, but yeah.
No. Did you say, hello, fellow boy in blue?
No, I didn't say that. No. Also, I'm from another state. So that
it gets weird with the different state departments.
It does. It gets weird. I don't know if they're buddies or not.
Yeah.
I always wonder about that.
Aaron, last week I asked our Spectrum community, our lovely listeners, what their favorite game was. And we got tons of responses. We got lots of votes for winter games. Mm-hmm. Somebody voted for Combat School. That's one of my favorites.
One of your marks.
I had to stick that in there, yeah. And Daley Thompson Super Test, which we're going to have to play this game.
Yeah, he's got a couple games.
This was one of the games that came out with the 128. I think it might have even been a pack-in or sold in a bundle or something. And once again, a Reddit user, they took jobs. He says that he was looking at the Spectrum World page. He wrote this big, long review about why Daley Thompson Super Test is great. So if you're not on the Spectrum Reddit page, go and check that out.
Is that the game we tried? Was that Super Test that we tried?
Oh, I know that we have a physical copy of it.
Yeah.
I don't know if we played it together or not. Okay.
Yeah.
But he says that apparently they had a really difficult time developing the game, and so they used a load of modified Hypersports code. Isn't that crazy?
That is wacky.
Yeah.
Hey, that's good insight. I didn't know that.
Yeah. So thank you. They took jobs.
I'd like some background on your name. They took jobs.
It comes from a South Park episode.
How do you spell
You are.
Oh, well, there you go.
I think that's one of the planets in Star Wars, too. Yeah. So, Aaron, it's time to talk about Chase H.Q.
All right. So, little known fact, I have had many arcade machines in my life. I've not owned the Chase H.Q, but I know of it. I've played it. So before we get into the Spectrum game itself proper, have you played this in the arcade?
Never.
Have you seen it in the arcade?
I've only seen pictures of it because this is famous for having the two big sirens on the sides of the cab, right? Physical, real siren. I get this confused with the pinball machine that does the same thing.
High speed?
Yeah, high speed.
Well, it's clearly different. But I knew a guy that actually, there was a Chase HQ within 5 miles of this very spot for many years. My buddy owned one.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. In the arcade, this was developed and published by Taito. Good old Taito. They were at it again. And this came out way back in '88, so pretty long ago. Now, the interesting thing about this game, you wouldn't believe how many sequels and stuff this thing. Did you know this thing got a bunch of sequels in the arcade?
I never knew that.
So get this, okay? And it itself was sort of a kind of a sequel. It's a spiritual successor to a game that Taito put out called Full Throttle, not to be confused with the LucasArts game, which that was a good game. After this came out, they released Special Criminal Investigation, which I have seen one of those. Super Chase, Criminal Termination. Wow.
No question on what you're doing with the bad guys in that one.
That was at '92. Chase HQ 2, that came out in 2007.
Wow.
How about that? And then there were 2 spin-offs released, Crime City in '89 and Quiz HQ in '90. Quiz HQ.
We need to do a special episode of all the Chase HQ spin-offs. I can only hope it's as much fun as Quiz and Dragons.
That's the goofiest thing I've ever heard. So this is in the arcade and on the Spectrum, this is a single-player, upright, set-down cabinet in the arcade. You've got both. I've seen both. You've got an upright, and there's also a set-down. Basically, you're in a cop car, and thank God it's not like this in real life, because I was thinking about how bad this would be, but you get a call in from headquarters and the arcade version. I'll get into the Spectrum version in a minute, but you get a call from headquarters, you get behind the wheel, you gun it, and your goal is to catch up to and then destroy the car of a suspect. All right, that's the game. Now, this game in the arcade was real popular. Clearly, it got a lot of sequels, and the funny thing about it is, people liked the fact that you did something with your car.
Right.
That was sort of the thing at the time. As opposed to just racing, you tried to...
You turn your car into a weapon, yeah.
Basically. And really, all this stuff pretty much comes right over to the Spectrum version. They did, and really, the home versions didn't go too far from their source material on this. So, the Spectrum version came out in '89, and it was published by Ocean. Now, I looked these guys up that worked on this and tried to ascertain what their job was, okay? So, the first fellow that worked on this name was John O'Brien. He was the programmer, and he worked on a couple other games, Dark Fusion and North Star. Again, we don't know what these games are. Now, Bill Harbison, I think he did the art and like the pictures and stuff, like the little, and there are some great pictures.
Yeah, like the portraits of the people in the game, right. Things like that.
This guy worked on a lot of stuff. On a few things. He worked on Daley Thompson's Olympic Challenge. One of my favorite games that I haven't tried on. I'm anxious to try this on the Spectrum. Dragon Ninja, aka Bad Dude.
I can't wait for that episode.
Bad. I love that one. A RoboCop and WEC Le Mans. All right, so he worked on those. Now, this guy, Jonathan Dunn, I'm sure this guy's super famous, and people are going to be like, listen, these stupid Americans don't know who he is, because he worked on everything. He was a music guy, all right, and sound effects. He did Addams Family. I'm not going to go through all of his, but he did Addams Family, Dark Man, New Zealand Story, Operation Wolf, Rambo 3, Renegade 3, RoboCop, Target Renegade, T2, Vindicator. He did a ton of games. So this guy must have been a whiz. And I will say, this is the first Spectrum game that we've played so far that had really good tunes, I thought. Didn't you think so,
yeah,
too?
Yeah, absolutely.
They go away, but I mean, they were good.
Yeah.
Right?
Now, this is a 128K game,
right. So
it's using more than just the beeper.
Right, but I mean, they were fine.
Yeah.
I was when it kicked up, I was like, yeah, that sounds good. This original price for this thing when it came out was £9.99. The disc version, basically £15. And it eventually got released on budget as well. And they're actually on the Spectrum. There were two of these, Chase H.Q. and then Chase H.Q. 2 Special Criminal Investigations. So I'm assuming they took the arcade SCI and brought it home, but we didn't look at that, so I didn't go into that much. So, as we mentioned, this game's got a simple premise. You're cops, and you are out to run bad guys off the road and destroy their car. So after this, and of course we were both playing this emulated this week since the Spectrum's down. It comes up. Give us your first impressions.
Well, I was instantly impressed with how, when I started playing the game, the feeling of playing the game was the same as playing the arcade machine. Of course, it's a very monochrome existence out there on the roadway. The way that this screen is drawn is that you have your horizon is one color, and then the road and the scenery and the other cars and your car are another color. However, the trade-off is that this game plays extremely, extremely fast. There is no slowdown whatsoever. All the elements of the game are there. The little prelude where you get the call from dispatch and whatever, the Iowa slashers on the loose, all that stuff is there. The sirens on top of on your left and right upper corners are there. They start going off when you get inside of the enemy.
Proper color on the top screen.
It's really an amazing achievement. To be honest with you, I didn't think that any Spectrum game could produce an arcade port that was this accurate, given the limitations of the system. It's
funny. Before we even conceived of doing this show, you conceived of it. I I'd heard a lot about this game, and so I saw that there was an Amiga version, and I loaded it up. So I have something to compare this to in terms of, and I also looked at the Versus video that got put up this week, which we'll mention that a little bit later. And I played the Amiga version before I played this one. And I will say, and I don't want to offend any of our Amiga people out there, but I thought it was garbage. Hot garbage.
It's not good. I've played the Amiga version.
I hated it. I thought it ran like, it didn't look that good, and it didn't run that good. And so when this got picked, I had heard the Spectrum version, this was really good, but I had just played the Amiga version, so you can imagine what my thoughts were going in. So the game comes up, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, okay, let's see how this thing goes. And I have to say, not only does it, of course, it blows away visually what the Amiga had. This blows away Amiga Outrun. It looks, the feeling of speed and the graphics. Again, color aside, and we know the limitations there, or we know of them. It's sharp. It looks good, and the roadway and stuff is rendered very nicely, and the stuff going by. It's amazing that something with 128K and given the limitations of the Spectrum can generate graphics of this quality, including, and we should mention, digitize the voice in there occasionally, and for the most part, because I played the arcade game a few times before I gave this a shot too. They capture the spirit of the arcade quite nicely. Even given some of the limitations, they still do a good job. This game has 5 levels, and we'll talk about how far you got here in a minute. The levels that are different characters that you're going out to get, bad guys. So the first one is Ralph, as Bo mentioned, Ralph, the Idaho Slasher.
It's just such a strange conflagration of the Idaho Slasher.
Yeah, now
maybe he's got a potato peeler.
The arcade version of this had him driving a white Lotus Esprit. They tell you what they're driving in this. The second guy is Carlos, the New York armed robber. He's in a yellow Lamborghini in the arcade. The third guy, these are just Chicago pushers.
Hey.
No one likes a pushy guy from Chicago. No. They're in the silver Porsche. The fourth outfit are the LA Kidnapper. Not good. And the blue Ferrari. And my personal favorite, the Eastern Bloc Spy in the red Porsche. Makes sense. He's a red.
You know what they call the Idaho Slasher in Chase HQ?
What?
A tato peeler.
Oh, God. What? No. What? You made that up? That's your joke?
That's Retro Man Cave right there in the chat right now. Boom! Retro Man Cave with the killer jokes.
Oh, man. Stick to your tech videos, pal. So, now, let's get into the meat and potatoes of this. And of course, it's got the stuff you would usually expect in a game like this. You've got your various control options. You got your Kensington. You've got your keyboard. You've got your Define keyboard. There was one other one there that I can't remember.
Some other interface.
Yeah. Define keyboard. Now, so I tried this various ways. The first thing I did, I was like, I'm going to try just using the keyboard. And so, of course, I'm using a PC keyboard. And I set my stuff up, and I went. The controls in this, you've got a button that does a gear shift. You've got turbo. You've got left and right, and accelerate. What were the control methods that you tried?
So I started with the trusty Epix XJ500 stick, my go-to stick on the Spectrum. However, this is one of those games where you have to push up to accelerate.
I knew you're right.
And
there
so the stick didn't last long because I got real tired of doing that. So what I did was
and if you let go of the stick for a second, you slow down.
Right.
It is relentlessly oppressive about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So instead what I did was I used the keyboard. I defined my keys accordingly.
Yeah.
And set just a button to go to accelerate, and then a left and right button, and then the turbo button. So that worked out much, much better.
Yeah, I did the same. So when you on the first level of this game, you start off, they give you, Nancy gives you the mission. I should mention who you are. We didn't get into this. So you're basically there are 2 characters in the car. You are a police officer named Tony Gibson, and you're a member of the Chase Special Investigation Department, and your partner is Raymond Brody. All right?
That's a great partner name.
And Nancy is the chick that's barking orders at you on this and giving you the directions. So in the first level of this, when you're going out to get the Idaho Slasher in his car, you have to, and every level's like this, you have to catch up to the guy first, okay? So, and this, sort of like an outrun, this is a lot like outrun in a lot of ways. You come to forks in the road, and you have to pick left or right. Now, on the first level, there's like an arrow that tells you which way to go. Now, one of the first things I did was go the wrong way.
I went the wrong way too.
But eventually, you can still catch up, but it takes longer. And then you drive, and at the top of the screen, there's a meter that tells you how close you are to the criminal. This thing's painful to watch because as you drive along, of course, you've got low and high gear. It's that part's a lot, sort of like an outrunner pole position. Yeah. And every time you hit something, well, it's time to flip into low gear and try to build up speed.
Yeah.
I read the optimum speed in low gear to high gear was 188. That's what I read. Okay. Which is that's what I tried to go by. I needed every cheat and every connive I could think of to get through this. So eventually you catch up to the bad guy. Now it's your job to ram this sucker until he explodes. All right. We should mention that you're on a timer, and this timer is oppressive. You get a certain amount of credits to continue in this game, and if you don't get to the guy by the time your credits run out,
it's
game's over. So, and I want you to be brutally honest here when I ask you, because this is an important question. Did you ever, without cheating, blow up the first guy?
No.
Okay. The first guy is driven what I believe is some sort of Abrams tank. I beat the tar out of this guy.
Me too. I was so excited when I got to him because I was like, all right, this is the first boss, going to be a piece of cake. And you're sitting there ramming him.
And I'm guessing here, but so this happened to me every time. I drove up to where the guy was, and I ran out of time. When you run out of time and you have to continue, well, here's what happens. Your car slows down to basically zero, and you have to wait for the sign to come up that says, well, do you want to continue? Well, while that's happening, the bad guy's hauling butt down the road. And so what's that mean? Well, once you continue the game, you've got to start again. That means building back up the speed. Then you have to catch the guy. Then you have to ram him. It's my belief that every time you continue, he must be getting recharged back to full health. Because I would beat the tar out of this guy. And I can say, and people can mock me because I know people are better at this game than me, I could not defeat a single car. I tried every level.
It's funny because usually the arcade versions of games are more difficult because they want you to just keep pumping quarters in. And I got so frustrated with this thing, I was like, screw it. I'm going to play the arcade version. I got to the first guy, beat the first guy.
Way easier. Way easier. So I found a cheat. If you watch the playthrough on this, by the way, they have the timer turned off, which I didn't know. I don't know how you do that. I couldn't do it. So, but I did find the cheat that would give me unlimited continues. This is the most frustrating cheat of all time because I must have continued 100 times. I was like, I'm going to kill this guy before he kills me, and I hit him and hit him and hit him and hit him. It's so frustrating to run out of time, start over, get back up to speed, catch him, hit him, he doesn't die, and then you run out of time again. The timer in this thing, I would like to meet and salute the man who can beat this game without using a continue, who can beat the first guy without using a continue. He must be, just to get to him, I had to use continue. The roads in this aren't super wide, and there are other cars on the road, and there's some pretty deep curves in this thing, and it is difficult to not hit stuff. Did you have that problem? Just hitting nondescript cars?
I hit stuff constantly.
Yeah. It's difficult. The roads aren't that big. And
and you're moving real fast.
If you compare this to like a Lotus on the Amiga, right, which is that's a comparison you can make.
Oh, sure.
In the way it turns, the way it looks.
Yeah.
Lotus is I don't know if it's the controls. I don't know what it is, or the way the cars move.
The streets are much less crowded, or maybe the streets are wider. I don't know, but you definitely don't hit things as often.
It's frustrating. So I found another cheat that let me, if you go to where you define the keys and you type in a certain word.
Is it a naughty word?
No, I can't remember what it's scorched, I think, or something like that.
Amiga sucks.
No, God no. But you type it in, and what it does is it gives you a special menu, and that menu will let you have unlimited continues, or it'll also let you skip through the levels. So I did get to skip through the levels, so I could see the other levels. Now on the second level, and I think every other level, a helicopter comes in, and the helicopter will tell you which way to go. That's pretty cool.
I remember that from the arcade
and
game.
it looks good. I mean, it looks real good, and it doesn't slow things down like you think it would. And so the helicopter will tell you which way to go, and you follow it. But I mean, it's the exact same thing, different type of car you're getting. But I mean, and the cars, when you get to a car, and you tell me if this is your experience, when you finally get to the computer car, hitting that car is no easy task, is it?
No.
It's the only car in the game that I couldn't ram into repeatedly. What did you think about the meat of the game?
You know, this game is a technical achievement. It's a technical masterpiece. The person that programmed this game, who is the person that programmed this game?
At John O'Brien, as far as I could tell.
Genius. Yeah. Genius. It's just too hard. It was too hard for me. You know, I wasn't able to enjoy it as much as I wanted to because it was just too much. It was too challenging. And I think it was unfairly difficult. I don't know what I would have, you know, I would have made the boss. I guess, you know, I could handle, you know, not being able to avoid the cars very often. But man, you know, the reason why this game was a hit, you know, why was this game so popular? Why did it spawn so many sequels? Well, there's, like you said, we talked about at the beginning of the show, there's 1,000,001 racing games in the arcades. There are very, very few arcade games that reward you for ramming other cars. One game that does is Bump and Jump. It's also another fantastic game.
Great game. Yeah.
This is another game.
I think it's way better. The arcade version is way better than the arcade version of this, in my opinion.
This is a game that gives you that same feeling, but with a pole position, third-person perspective, which is very exciting. Plus the storyline, what you're doing in the game, how they flesh it out with the characters, you know, really cool. The fact that they put real cars in the game, you know, the bad guy's always driving some kind of exotic sports car, and there's a part of all of us that love seeing expensive things smashed into smithereens.
Yeah.
You know, this game is a really, really cool game. It's just a shame that they made it a little bit too tough.
I wonder, part of me wonders if they ever, because I looked to see if this fellow, John O'Brien, had done much else racing-wise. I don't know what Dark Fusion is or North Star, but I'm assuming they're not racing games. I can only hope that they use this engine for other stuff. And we'll find out, I guess, as we go through this. But the engine is rock solid. Rock solid. Even the controls, I'm not saying it doesn't control that well. It's okay. It's not the best.
You know, here is something that I was pondering.
Yeah.
As I often do when I'm laying in bed at night trying to sleep. I was pondering why more games don't take the track that that Rally Speedway on the Atari game does, where acceleration is automatic. As soon as you go, you're going, and you use the button to brake. You know, if this game would have done that, boy, it would have been a whole lot more fun to play.
Well, I like yourself, I tried the joystick, then I went back to the keyboard, and it didn't help. I mean, it helped a little, I guess. My hands were less tired.
Yeah, it helped my hand fatigue.
You know, but the bottom of the truth is the game is incredibly difficult. As an added kick in the pantaloons, as you're continuously failing, Nancy is bad-mouthing you perpetually.
You'll never reach him if you keep on dawdling around.
What are you waiting on?
Right.
It's like, are you kidding me?
Yeah.
Why did you send me out in rush hour traffic?
No respect.
One of the first places you go, in the very first level, you go through like road closed signs, and you're going through like the desert. And my thought was, how did all these other cars get out here? And why are we going this way? It was crazy. But I echo a lot of what you said. What you've got here are the bones of a tremendous game. For me, and I know from looking at other people's love for this game, it's a little bit like we just covered Lynx on the Amiga show. It's a beautiful game. The engine's great, but the actual gameplay just lets me down. It's too hard. It's too hard for me. It wasn't because of the joystick. It wasn't because of the keyboard. There's not enough real estate, and there's not enough time. Even if they had the same real estate and just gave you more time, or even if they did, let's say they didn't change anything, but they made the character's ability to die easier, then it would have been more fun. It's so frustrating to just pound and pound and pound this car and it not go down. It was one of the most frustrating games I've ever played, because I liked every aspect of it. I liked the music. I went through the whole game. I tried every level. And really, what you get is the backgrounds alternate from yellow to white, back and forth, and you know, they had the helicopter. But basically, it's the same thing over and over. You know, and at the end, there's an ending to it. It's well drawn. It looks cool. You know, they didn't let you down in that department. It's got a great opening screen. The loading screen's cool. I did load this off the simulated tape thing, so I sat through the whole loading to see how long it would take. You know, I like it. I liked everything about it except for the actual parts that we complained about I didn't like. You got anything you want to add?
Yeah, I guess, you know, is this what is your favorite racing game in this perspective?
Oh boy. You know, across the board?
Across the board.
You know, I'm going to date myself, but a game I really liked that you don't hear about much anymore was Turbo. I thought it was a fun game.
That's this perspective?
Yeah.
I thought Turbo was...
It's sort of like... The angle's a little bit different.
Okay, but it's still behind the back.
Yeah, that's right. I also liked, you know, Lotus 2 was tremendous. I really liked that. I like a lot of games, like the Outrun, of course. You know,
but what's your favorite? If you had to choose one,
it's hard to pick one. Boat? I don't know.
I'm making you make the tough choices.
What's your choice?
No question. Outrun.
Outrun's awful.
It's the
good.
perfect mix of beautiful graphics, rockin' tunes, branching pathways. I love it. I love everything about it.
Outrun's very good. There's no. I mean, it's definitely up in the top couple.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Daytona.
Yeah, I'm not great at it, to be honest with you. Again, and also a good game. And
of course, by Outrun, I mean the Amiga port of Outrun.
Oh God, no, no. The less said about that, the better. So, you know, I looked at these reviews. I want to talk about these reviews a little bit because I got a little insight into each one of these things. So, the World of Spectrum folks gave this an 8.39, a very lofty score,
yes,
and a ton of votes. So, Crash Magazine of 89 gave this a 95. Our Sinclair gave this a 94. Right, CVG a 97. Do you see a trend here? I mean, they got massive love. It won awards. It was the Sinclair version and the Amstrad version were widely regarded as the two best versions of all the home ports. Mm-hmm. So this was amongst the most popular ones. The Games Machine gave it 91 and Ace gave it an 87. All huge scores. I couldn't help but think that they knew something I didn't know. It's what drives me nuts about this title.
Well, here's the thing. This was a late release for the 128K, which was not getting a lot of quality releases. It suffered the same fate that the Commodore 128 got, where they put out this new machine that had better capabilities and nobody took advantage of it because nobody wanted to split the user base.
Right.
So I think, a lot of these high marks were just because this was such an impressive feat of coding that they looked, they might have overlooked the difficulty just a bit.
I wonder why the programmer didn't do much else. I mean, I don't know about these other two games.
Real-time follow-up. Darren Cole says that the same guy that did this game did the driving sections of Batman the movie on the Amiga, which you recall has a driving section.
Yeah, they're actually kind of similar to this too. Now,
yeah, he says it was developed from the WEC Le Mans Specky game they did before Chase HQ.
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Good tip there, dude. Now, was there a lower version of this as well?
Yeah, so there was a 48K version. I couldn't figure out how to load it. Like the tape file that I had from the Tosec collection it just said 48K to 128K, and I tried loading it with the 48K, but it's still in the emulator loaded up the 128K version, or maybe the 48K version was so good that I didn't know the difference. But I figured that that's not the case because they have the speech and everything like that and the music. So, one thing I thought we'd look at real quick was Duncan Stiles did a comparison video here of the Chase HQ on the Spectrum version versus the Amstrad version. And as you can see, the Amstrad version has it's obviously got more colors, but it doesn't. The frame rate just isn't the same. You know, it's noticeably more choppy than the Spectrum version.
And I will say, I watched this video, and the Amstrad version still looks better than the Amiga version. I mean, it looks more playable. But of the two, I mean, if you look at just straight up smoothness of play, this Spectrum version is clearly smooth.
Not to mention, the Spectrum can generate a real red for the for the siren up at the top of the page. Yeah. So thank you, Duncan, for putting that together. We did get some Amigos Retro Gaming Discord server community reviews. If you are a Patreon supporter of this show, you can put a review in the Our Sinclair channel on our server. Graham Vebke says, with my current limited knowledge of ZX titles, this arcade game has super smooth driving and a great feeling of speed using turbo while chasing down criminals. The game is difficult, which is similar to the arcade version for me, so this is a very faithful 8-bit conversion and possibly the best home port of this arcade game, even without Nancy's voice.
Yes.
Paul Bossman Harrington says, one of the best arcade conversions for the Spectrum, putting even the Amiga version to shame. Great music, sampled speech, smooth animation with lots of great details such as audio muffling when going through tunnels. That was one thing I forgot to mention.
Yeah,
the sound design in this game is excellent.
I will say, if you watch the video that is up, it sounds. I think it sounds better than the Amstrad version, and also the you get the continual cop, the sound the oven didn't give you. Now you want to kill yourself after you hear that for about 20 straight minutes.
Right.
But still, you do get to hear it.
Pixels at Dawn says this is a unique driving game with a great title tune on the 128K and a steep difficulty curve. Never before have criminals owned such indestructible vehicles.
Okay, good. I'm glad someone else mentioned that.
A real sense of speed, but it's too hard to steer around other vehicles, and so too hard for me.
Yep.
Duncan Styles, the Dunk, he says, something about the way the cars move combined with the slightly off collision detection makes passing another vehicle without hitting it a small victory.
He's right.
Fun and technically very impressive, but flawed gameplay and a time limit that expects near perfection lets it down. 7.5 out of 10.
Yeah.
And finally, the one and only Chris Folds says they achieved 3 impossible things with this port. Number 1, recreate the feel of a top-end arcade machine. Number 2, make it better than the 16-bit conversions. And number 3, made it harder than the arcade.
Yes.
I want to like it, love it even, but I'm just so bad at it. I've only seen stage 2 once, yet can regularly get to stage 3 on the arcade version. 7 out of 10.
That sounds very similar to what we thought about it. Just in case you want to pick this up, I had a look on eBay, Boat. There weren't. I thought there'd be oodles of these. I'll be honest with you, there weren't. I only saw a couple in the UK, and you're going to be to get the boxed version. You're going to be in for. I mean, such as it is, you're going to be in between 8 and 13 buckaroos US dollars. So it's not a huge investment.
No.
But
did you notice if the 48K version or the 128K version
I think
were more
these
common?
are both the 120. I don't
Okay.
think I saw the 48. I'm not sure I specified. I have to go back and look. But cheap. Cassettes are usually pretty cheap.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So as we wind down this week's show, I would like to remind everybody that if you like Our Sinclair and you want to help us out, in addition to supporting us on Patreon, you can help spread the word on whatever social media that you have or whatever forums you visit.
Bathroom wall.
Yeah, bathroom
Scrawl
wall.
it on
For
there.
a good time, listen to Our Sinclair. You can send us any feedback you have on the show at feedback@oursinclair.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this game and also our community question this week, which is, what is your favorite over-the-shoulder third-person driving game on the Spectrum? This is one of my favorite genres, so I'd love to hear.
We need tips.
Some other games to try.
We need tips to try.
I would like to thank our Spectrum supporters, our Patreon supporters, who give of themselves so much every month to help us out. Graham Vebke, Frodo NL, Tapes from the Crypt, Pixels at Dawn, Chris Folds, Paul Harrington, and Christopher Hassel. Thank you so much. And if you would like to support the show, that is patreon.com/Our Sinclair. Next week, Aaron, we're taking a look at one of the classic, all-time classics on the Specty.
All right.
Manic Miner.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
You know I've never played Manic Miner?
Really?
I've never played it.
We're gonna have to.
We played the sequel, right?
You played Jet? Did you do that on ARG with Brent? Jet Set Willie?
We did that one.
Okay.
So I am well ready to go.
All right. Well, until then, keep on playing your Spectrum and rewind tape
And press play.